Alright, in this video I'm going to share with you the answer key to these lesson 6.3 reflection. So you can check this out and know for sure whether your strategies to solve the three problems on the reflection were correct. So it says in the question, the chimpanzee's brain weight can be compared to the brain weight of other mammals. It says, assume the weight of an average chimpanzee's brain is 400 grams to answer each question. So we have to assume that the weight of an average chimpanzee's brain is 400 grams. Okay, so I circled assume because that's something I have to do, and I circled 400 grams because that's an important fact that I need to know in order to solve this problem. And I underlined weight because I need to know that the 400 grams relates to the weight of the chimpanzee's brain. So number one says, if an average lion's brain average lion's brain's weight is 60% of a chimp's brain weight, how much does an average lion's brain weight? Now there's several ways that I could solve this problem. Here's one way. I know that the chimpanzee's brain weighs 400 grams, okay? And I know that's equal to 60% for a lion's brain. So 60% I know as a fraction, I could write that as 60 over 100, which I could simplify to 6/10 or 3/5. Okay, so I can write these as proportions or equivalent fractions. So 400 over 1 is equal to 3 over 5. So if I look at this, there's a couple ways that I could do this. I could either multiply across right away and take 400 multiplied by 3, which would be 1200, and then divide by 5. Or I can simplify right away, like we've practiced. So that's what I'm going to do here. So 400 divided by 5. 400 divided by 5, I know 40 divided by 5 is 8, so 400 divided by 5 is 80. And then if I simplify 5, if I divide that by 5 as well, that's going to equal 1. So then if I multiply across, 80 multiplied by 3 equals 240. So 240 grams is the weight of the lion's brain. And make sure that you include 240 grams as the weight of the lion's brain in your response. Now, another way that I can do this would be to take the take partial percentages of 400 grams. So if I'm trying to think about 400 grams, I'm going to know what 50% of that is, because 50% is going to be half, so that's going to be 200 grams. Right? And then all I have left is 10%, okay, which 10% plus 50% adds up to 60%. So 10% of 400 grams, we just have to move the decimal point one place to the left in 400. So if I have 400 over here on the left, the decimal is currently after the second 0. Now I just have to move it one spot to the left because it's just like dividing by 10. So then if I add those together, 50% and 10%, I'll get my 60%. Alright, add those up, and again I have 240 grams. Now either method is an effective method to solve this problem, and you can solve it either way, whatever method works best for you, as long as you explain your thinking and explain exactly what you did using your math vocabulary. Now the second problem says if an average sheep's brain weight is 35% of a chimp's brain weight, how much does an average sheep's brain weigh? So here the sheep's brain is 35% of a chimp's brain weight. And the question is, how much does an average sheep's brain weigh? And it's 35%, or 35 over 100 of a chimp's brain weight. So again, that 400 grams is going to be an important number for us. Mathematicians, remember, we like to think smarter, not harder. Now, I could find 10% of 400 3 times, and then take half of that, which I very well could do. So 10% is going to equal, again, 40 grams, just like in the last problem. And then we have 3 of those, so 30% is going to equal 120 grams. And then 5% is going to equal half of this 10%. So that's going to equal 20 grams. Okay? So 30% plus 5% equals 35%, or 140 grams. 140 grams that the average sheep's brain weighs. Now, another way to solve that same problem, thinking smarter, not harder, I could break 35% up into 25% and 10%. Now, I know that 25% is 1/4 of the whole thing, and the whole thing right now, remember, is 400 grams. So 1/4 of 400 grams would be 100 grams. And then all I have to do is find, well, what 10% would be. And again, that would be 40 grams, because we moved the decimal point in 400 one spot to the left, or divide by 10 in order to find that 10%. So then we add 100 grams plus 40 grams, and it's 140 grams that the average sheep's brain weighs. And the last problem was an average cat's brain. An average cat's brain weight is 7% of a chimp's brain. So cat's brain is 7% of a chimp's brain. And how much does the average cat's brain weigh? Okay, we can find 7% by taking 5% and then 1% twice. So if we think back to those other examples, if we have 400, 10% of 400 is equal to 40, right? So 5%, because 5% is half of 10%, is going to equal 20 grams. Okay, so again, 5% is half of 10%, so 40 grams for 10%, it's going to be 20 grams for 5%. Now we just have to find out what 1% is, and similarly to with the 10%, okay, we just have to move decimal points once, twice, because we're not dividing by 10 this time, we're dividing by 100, because it's 1% out of 100. So once, twice, and then each 1% is going to be worth 4 grams. So then we have 20 grams plus 4 grams plus 4 grams, and that's going to be 28 grams. 28 grams that the average cat's brain weighs. Right? And that was our reflection on lesson 6.3. Thanks for watching. Keep working hard.